Hi, my name is Alejandra. Growing up in Colombia, my mom always told me, if you truly want something in life, put it in a prayer and leave it in God's hands. I believed her. One day, when I was little, I remember seeing the Rocky Mountains on the cover of one of her magazines. They were beautiful and unlike anything I had seen before. I turned to my mom and I said, one day I'm going there. I'm going to Canada. Years later, after graduating from college, that dream was still in my heart. I packed my bags and I moved to Canada. My high school sweetheart, now my husband, Juan, came with me to study English, and then COVID hit. Suddenly, we were stuck in Canada with no money. We started cooking meals in the house where we were renting a bedroom, and Juan delivered them through Facebook Market. It was just enough for groceries and for rent. Juan and I both found work and eventually an apartment of our own. But even in this season of new beginnings, I had an ongoing diagnosis, endometriosis. I had been told I couldn't get pregnant easily. On August 1st, everything changed. I found out I was pregnant. At our first ultrasound, the medical team couldn't see a gestational sac. They explained that the fetus would likely not be viable and offered to clean it up for me. But something inside me told me to wait. We waited 6 weeks. Still not sac on the second ultrasound. Against all odds, I went into the emergency room at the hospital for just one final ultrasound. And there it finally was. A tiny heartbeat, a tiny miracle. Then, in the middle of January, we went for another routine ultrasound. I will never forget the call we received after it. Doctors had discovered a mass on our baby's lung, pushing into the heart. We rushed to BC Women's Hospital in Vancouver. The medical team sat us down, explaining what was likely to happen. Our baby's tumor would continue to grow and the lungs would likely fill with water and the heart would stop. They said, if you want to consider an abortion, now is the time. Juan and I didn't speak as we made the journey through the hospital halls. At the exit, we finally stopped and looked at each other. I collapsed and sobbed into his arms. I asked him, what do we do? My husband has always had a tougher time with faith than I do, but not in that moment. In that moment, with clarity, he said, you've never given up before. Why would you now? Let's give everything to God and move forward. And so we did. After that, we were in and out of the hospital constantly. They monitored the mass, it continued to grow, and we lived with the weight of uncertainty. Then, at 34 weeks, the medical team sent me for an MRI. A week later, I found myself in a room, face to face with the same doctor who had once told us we should consider an abortion. She looked at me wide-eyed and said, you must be the luckiest woman I have ever known. As of 2 weeks ago, your baby mass was still there, but now we can't see anything. I thanked her, and she looked at me and said, you don't need to thank me, you know who did this. Before we left, they warned us, saying, don't get too hopeful. At birth, your baby still may not breathe or cry. I had grown up going to church in Colombia, but after we moved here in 2019, I stopped. Then, one day in June of last year, we drove past outside and something inside me said, maybe we should try here. I looked it up on Instagram and loved what I saw, so we went. That first Sunday, I felt like God was speaking directly to me, through the worship, through the message, through everything. Juan, who was raised Catholic and isn't normally very expressive about God or church, turned to me and said, we're coming back. Fast forward to this year, one of the Sundays during my pregnancy, Pastor Mike invited anyone who needed prayer to come to the front. We stepped out of our seats while the music played with pounding hearts. The prayer team prayed with us that our baby would be okay, that God would cover us and we would experience a miracle. At 39 weeks, they induced me and I labored for 2 days. Our baby changed positions and got stuck, so they had to do an emergency C-section. I remember it clearly. It was 1 a.m. I was dizzy and trembling, and I grabbed Juan's hand. I remember squeezing it and praying over and over again. And then we heard it. Our baby boy screamed. It was loud and the most beautiful sound I have ever heard. I turned to Juan and I saw tears pouring down his face. I had never really seen him cry before that moment. Baby Jack was born completely healthy. He was 8 pounds, breathing on his own. His heart and lungs were perfect. All the tests, all the scans, all were normal. Jack is 2 months old now, and we are scheduled for a CT scan when he turns 4 months. But for now, we are soaking in the miracles that God has done for our family every single day. As for Southside, we came to this community without really expecting much, but this church surrounded us. After Jack's birthday, we were given a diaper bag through a Southside Loves Them Both initiative. It was so nice and filled with every essential. We were stunned, ashamed even. We hadn't expected anything, but these people just loved us with no strings attached. That moment shifted something in us. After receiving that bag, Juan turned to me and said, "We need to give back. If our church did this for us, imagine what we can do for others." Since then, we have been committed to being part of this community, not just attending, but engaging and giving. If you were to ask me what I would want someone to take from our story, it would be that miracles happen every day. We have seen it, we have lived it, and we are living it every day. In this new country, with our beautiful son and our Southside church family, God has brought about countless miracles, big and small. We are dedicated to spending the rest of our lives acknowledging them and telling the world about them. Thank you, God, and thank you, Southside.